basically Grapple. And here's why. When you select Grapple as your grenade of choice for Destiny 2, you are giving up your grenade for something that gives you a lot of mobility. With that mobility, though, comes a lot of risk because you are broadcasting where you're going anytime you use your Grapple. So you have a very high risk mobility option, which may be great for some encounters, but you're giving up your grenade. And here's the critical point. Don't give up grenades. If you're playing Trials of Osiris and you are running a map with tight corners, that means you basically, a good example is Endless Vale. There's a middle lane there, and there is a giant wall to your back if you try to push that middle lane, and there are narrow cubbies that shotgunners can run through, right? It's very difficult to get a long range engagement going there. A lot of your engagements are going to be close range. If you're running that type of a map and you don't have grenades to toss into those cubbies or against the back wall, you're going to have trouble in that engagement. Grapples, Woven Mail is not going to make up for that. At high levels of play, you're going to get shot in the face. Woven Mail does nothing for you there. The flinch resistance is nice, but for the most part, you can get that in other ways. And should, by the way, and I'll talk more about that. Grapple's a gimmick, guys. It's fun in 6v6. But if you're playing competitive, tight quarters play, Grapple is not going to get you there. I would much prefer those threadling grenades over to Grapple for those engagements. I don't need Woven Mail. I need utility. I need a way to clean up that guy that I just bodied that ran around the corner in the middle of the map. I was able to get a body. If I have Grapple, there's nothing else I can do. Because if he gets to cover and I try to grapple around there, I am dead. He will be recovered by the time I do that Grapple. He'll be full health and waiting there with a shotgun. And shotgun versus Grapple melee, the shotgun will win every time. Grapple versus Warlock melee, the Warlock will win every time. Right? I am not going to be able to get a Grapple melee and then any second thing off before that dies. That's been drilled into me pretty solid at this point. Grapple sucks, guys. It really fucking sucks. Bungie, I appreciate that we did not want to create a Stasis 2.0, but Grapple sucks for PvP content. Don't use Grapple. Use a grenade that you can clean up kills with. When the enemy is around a corner, toss one of those threadling grenades to finish them off. Or if a shotgunner's charging you, toss it in the cubby that they're going to come running through, or whatever lane they're going to come running through, so they have to run through those threadlings, right, to get to you. By the way, those threadlings aren't super adaptive. I don't know. If you're running fast enough, it seems like you can kind of run past them. But still, if you're backing away a little bit, you toss that in front of you and they're charging you, it's gonna apply some friction. It's gonna slow them down or give them pause, right? And ideally puts a little bit of damage in them. If you got a hand cannon, you can maybe 1-2 tap them and they're done. We'll talk about hand cannons a little bit as well. 1 and 2 tapping. Important stuff to discuss there. But the biggest thing that I want to get out of the way here is that do not use Grapple in its current form. That's my recommendation to you. Don't use it. It's just so limited. You can and suspend, I would argue, is complete trash. Because you can't use suspend against anyone who can one-shot no-scope you. So anyone who's rocking a fusion rifle or a shotgun or a submachine gun in Trials, which is everybody, is going to be able to counter your suspend. Because they can still turn to you. Yeah, they're disoriented, but guess what? So are you. And they're going to body shot you to death before you can recover from your suspend maneuver, get anywhere, or get reticle on head and pull trigger, right? You're going to be done. So it's fun, it's gimmicky. In 6v6 it can work. On long range maps, the mobility may be beneficial. So if you are engaging from long range maps. I have noticed, maybe talking a little bit about the good of Grapple, the Woven Mail is helpful, don't get me wrong. You know, if I'm not using it for mobility, and I just make sure and tag the wall before I round a corner, and if I can remember to do that consistently, the Woven Mail does help. I can win engagements against a submachine gun more consistently. I can outduel as long as I've got that Woven Mail, especially with subs, because submachine guns are going to tend to body shot you first. They're going to open up with a body shot because they want to win the flinch war. They want to get those first rounds in you fast. It's helpful. It's not the end-all be-all. And giving up the utility of a grenade for it is terrible. The fact that you're giving up utility of a grenade and then you can't even one-hit melee someone, even though you're forecasting where you're going and there's a minimum amount of grapple travel time that you have to go through before you can even execute the powered melee. And then to have it not be a one-hit melee, it's just... And then you have no grenades. So you have a big nothing is what you've got. Anyway, one of my first videos was about Grapple, Woven Mail, and PvP. And got a lot of feedback that it's really good, and I played it and enjoyed it for a little while, but now I've come full circle. The more I've played it, the more I've realized that it's utter trash and not worth your time. Toss that helmet in the freaking dumpster, put on Worm Husk, because Worm Husk gives you survivability when you need it, and that's when you're taking damage. Dodge out, get a boost to your health, finish up the fight. Right? Hopefully you can get Reaper mods turned back on here and you get your orb. It's messed up that you don't have Reaper mods right now because that's basically the only way. Are they back on yet? I don't know. As far as I know, I think they're still not working. It's like the only way you get orbs. And like all of the builds utility that chains kills into subsequent kills uses orbs. The best stuff comes from orbs. You know, if I want a 1v3, which I have to do in trials, I need orbs to drop when I kill people. So please, Bungie, fix that. Okay, so that's it for Grapple. Utility is critical for stopping shotgunners and cleaning up kills. It's super effective. And don't give up don't give up that utility for Grapple. Okay, enough said. Moving on to topic number 2 for the day, flinch rhythm. Guys, I have round robin, and I had found with my sniper rifle, and we'll cover this in a little bit as well, that I was able to get some really good sticky shots when I ramped up the range. I watched a video on range. I always knew range was supposed to be sort of amplifying of aim assist. That appears to be the case, as far as we understand, I think. I definitely noticed it was a very sticky sniper rifle when I bumped it to max range on my frozen orbit, and then put on a couple of tracking mods. It's sticky as heck. So I was like, well, let's do this with a hand cannon. So I took my gun and I swapped out the ricochet rounds for high caliber rounds, and I swapped out all of the stability and handling stuff for high range stuff, maxed it out at, I think it was like 78 range. Put it aside for a little bit. I don't think I even tried it out for a minute or two. Came back a couple days later and logged in to Rumble and had the worst time of my life playing Destiny 2. I just could not. It's not that I couldn't get kills. I was losing matches, and it's not like I was losing like where they were down to 20% and I was dead. I wasn't landing a single shot. I went from being able to consistently place, in the top 3, top 2. I wasn't necessarily on the top of the leaderboard every time, but doing well, having good, fun, enjoyable matches. To I'm on the bottom with like a 0 KDA. Like I got maybe 1 kill the whole round. And every engagement that I'm engaging in, I'm not even doing a single drop of chip damage. I can't get a single shot to land on the enemy before I'm getting flinched to the ceiling. Flinched to the ceiling, and then by the time I recover, get my reticle back on target, they've already got the next shot in me and I'm flinched again. And if they're moving at all, sliding, strafing, whatever it is, doing the little crouch walk, bobble walk, I cannot cope with it, and I can't get a headshot to, or even a body shot, right? So I'm going, what's going on? Is it my internet connection? Is it, am I just playing all diamonds, right? Like what's, you know, pro league players, like what's going on, you know? So I ended up switching to a 140, and with just had some high stability stuff on it just to try like a different hand cannon. And suddenly everything changed. It's sticky as hell. I'm snapping people 3 times and dropping them. People that were just completely annihilating me. You know, one nice thing about Rumble is it appears to be connection based because I'm playing the same players over and over and over again. So players that a couple hours ago had just been annihilating me, or the day before, I can now engage with. You know, it's not like I'm stomping them, but I'm winning duels against them, right? Again, and it feels like a game again, right? So, at the end of the day, long story short, went back and recrafted my round robin for high stability and high handling. I don't know whether it's the stability or handling. I also put in on a ton of anti-flinch gear, and I am once again able to use that 120 weapon in Rumble and in Iron Banner this week, and I'm having a lot of fun with it now. I do not recommend rocking high range because if you don't get that first shot off, you lose the flinch war. So basically there's like a dance, right? Where there's like a rhythm where if you can continually flinch the enemy before they can get that next shot off, you will win that fight. It's dynamic damage resistance, right? If I can out flinch you, I can beat you, even if I have a lower TTK. If I can reduce your practical TTK to 0, then your practical TTK is 0, and I'm going to win that fight. So flinch matters. Especially with sniping. So one disadvantage I have with this new sniper, right, is that it is flinchy as hell. But I think that's okay. And the reason why is I'll get to in a minute is when to snipe. When it comes down to when to snipe, right? It's flinchy as hell. If I'm aggressive sniping, if I'm trying to like slide snipe you, this thing's probably not great for that. But if I'm able to get to a lane first and I know that you have to come around that lane, it's beautiful. It's beautiful with that extra range, but it is flinchy. Man, like if you're shooting me at all, if I come around the corner with that sniper and think I'm going to get a shot, I don't care what you're rocking. 1 bullet in me, there's no way I'm landing a snipe. It's never going to happen. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter how much flinch resistance I have on. Doesn't matter if I've got no distractions. Of course, in that type of an engagement, I probably don't have ADS running long enough to get no distractions to proc, but even with that, like good luck getting that shot off if I'm getting flinched. And so all I have to do is put 1 body shot in me and it's game over. So the flinch matters. And so you need to understand how to fight against flinch, how to mitigate that. Use weapons that don't have to deal with a lot of flinch. That is, I think, more important than aim assistance. It's more important to be able to like put your reticle on target consistently is more important than aim assistance, because aim assistance only goes so far. If you're flinched, you know, several degrees of rotation off of your target, it doesn't matter 1 iota how much aim assist you've got. It's not going to compensate for that, right? You're much more likely to get those headshots if you can have consistency in your reticle placement, and stability and handling are going to get you there faster than and flinch resistance faster than aim assist and range. So depending on your weapon, right? For a hand cannon, I would say, because of the type of engagements you're going to be getting into, and because you're going to get a lot of body shots, you want that flinch resistance, you want that stability. With snipers, you can make the trade, because with snipers, I can get you coming into a lane and I can get that first shot off. The whole point of the sniper is to get the first shot off, right? Generally speaking, unless you're aggressive sniping, and we'll get to that a little bit. But for the most part, your entire point with a sniper is to get that first shot off. So it's okay. You know, if my hand cannon could one-shot you, then I would just play to get the first shot. And then it would be okay if I have no flinch resistance. I'd want max range and max aim assist. But if I have to duel you, if we have to go back and forth and trade a couple rounds, I want to make sure that I don't lose if you happen to get one flinch in at any point in that duel, because that's what's happening, right? If I got flinched once, from that point forward, I was not able to get back on target fast enough to prevent getting flinched again. And it drops my TTK to 0. So, flinch resistance. All right, guys. Build to 1v3. So this is something that I talked a little bit about in my last video. You have to 1v3. In Trials, you have to 1v3. In Rumble, you kind of have to 1v3. I kind of like playing Rumble to prep you for Trials, because you're constantly having to chain kills into the next kill. So that's something that I've just sort of discovered. I didn't really play Rumble that much, and to be honest, I don't really like it. It's kind of a stressful play mode, but I think it's good for practicing for Trials. If you want to get good at Trials, I recommend doing Rumble, because you're constantly having to chain kill to kill to kill to kill. It teaches you to 1v3, basically. I mean, there's more than 3 other players on the map. Most of the time, there seems to be a lot of like weird bots that just sit there and shoot at walls. I don't know if that's I don't know. I think they're just farming, but which is terrible. I wish there's a way to fix that. But the point is that at any given time, it's unlikely that you're going to have more than 2 or 3 players in close proximity, but that's enough that it gives you that practice 1v3, right? Execute a kill in such a way that you can then get the next kill and the next kill. And what to do if you're pinned, right? To push and try and turn it into 2 quick 1v1s instead of, a 1v2, if you can. So, you want to focus on things that are going to let you regen. So I like Worm Husk in terms of my exotic. I like all of the mods that give you health regen when you get an orb, right? And I like recovery after I get a kill and I get an orb. And I want to talk about that a little bit. A lot of pro players are telling you to max out recovery and that's the meta. I would disagree, because who gives one flying F-bomb about recovery when you're at full health? It is doing nothing for you until after the engagement, right? So why do you care? Font mods are exactly for that purpose. I would say drop your recovery to 0 and strap on a font mod. Not 0, by the way. I mean, ideally with the font mod, you'll be at max recovery. Couple that with a couple of extra mods that are going to give you, there's one that'll give you a good chunk of health on orb pickup, and one that'll start your health regen right away on orb pickup. So you pair all those things together, and you're basically going to be recovered after every single fight as long as you can get an orb to drop, right? And again, that's difficult right now because you typically have to chain kills to get orbs. Reaper was the only way to really consistently get orbs, so that is kind of a downer to this. The ideal thing is you would pair Reaper with all of these mods, and because you're using Worm Husk, you're going to be dodging in every engagement, and because you're dodging, you're going to be getting your Reaper orb drops. You get your Reaper orb, you're fully recovered, and you're ready to engage the next player, right? By the way, the dodge also, gives you a health and shield bump. So all these things are super critical. And I recommend anything that can help you chain one kill into the next. So also anything that'll buff your damage so that you can compensate, right? This is basically sort of, you may be at 3/4 or half health, but if you're doing 20% more damage per round, that may be enough to compensate and offset you and get you to get a win in, even though you're at lower health. So if you were doing 20% more damage, and then thanks to picking up that orb, you've got maybe 20% more health than you would have had otherwise, that may compensate for the fact that you're down 40% in your health, right? It's kind of the idea. I don't know if those numbers add up exactly, but you get the idea. So build the 1v3. The other aspect of that I want to talk about, actually another change that I made to my mods that I want to talk about real quick is just the flinch resistance. So I had mods that were buffing my resilience, and kind of the same idea there. Resilience, unlike recovery, is something you do want at the start of the fight. Same with mobility. You want those at the start of the fight. Discipline and recovery can wait until after the fight. And so font mods are great for those two stats. For mobility and resilience, you want those when the fights start. So using a font mod there doesn't make any sense. You want to spec to as high a level of that as you can get, and then you want to stack a lot of flinch resistance again, so you can win those flinch tools. That's what I'm seeing so far. Other players may disagree. I'd love to hear comments if you disagree, but in my opinion, that flinch resistance is critical, so that you're not getting flinched out of your duels. All right. I think that's about it for my build at the moment. The other thing is map awareness. Well, actually, that's the next topic. Is tight corners. Understand when you're on a map that has tight corners or low LOS, line of sight range. And what I mean by that is, just because it's a big map and there may be you may be in sort of a room that if you were to go up to the ceiling and look around, is there's a lot of space in that room. But if there's a lot of cover that shotgunners can run through that you can't snipe them at, then what's your practical LOS range? And if that's 10 to 20 meters, you probably don't want a sniper, right? Unless you're going to be doing aggressive sniping. Again, that's very problematic at high levels of play. Because if they body you once, good luck getting that aggressive snipe off, right? Good freaking luck. You can do it, but you can't do it consistently. And if you're doing it, if you're aggressive sniping, it's almost like unplanned, like an emergency, right? So know what loadout is going to matter for that map. And here's another thing, is a lot of maps in 6v... this isn't something that was drilled into me, because in 6v6, on a lot of maps, you have areas of the map where you can run a longer loadout, a longer range loadout, and areas of the maps where it's tighter. The thing is that with trials or objective, map objective-based game modes, is that you're oftentimes going to be forced into one specific area of that map, and you have to pay attention to that. So like on trials, if you know you're going to be in two areas of the map that aren't going to have good sniping lanes, right, then you probably don't want to run sniper. You probably want to run something that can corner. And so if you want something that can corner, you're going to want either a fusion rifle or a shotgun or a grenade launcher. Or, like a special ammo grenade launcher, right? Which I've seen some clips of those being used on Endless Vale in that middle area. Highly effective, running 2 grenade launchers with auto-loading holster, I think they had. I'm not sure. It seemed like they could swap back and forth with them pretty quickly and just stay very highly mobile, just moving around a lot up in the air, and very aerial, very highly mobile. And they basically were just dropping grenades all over the place, and players couldn't cope with it, right? Versus, try doing that on a sniper. You can't get an LOS on anybody, but with a grenade launcher, you don't care if you get an LOS on anybody, right? It just needs to pop next to them, right? That's the beauty, that's the utility of grenades. And again, that's why you do not want to use grapple. Now, I would say, if you were rocking grenade launchers, you might be able to get away with grapple. And then you can kind of have some of that aerial play. You can grapple up into the air, toss a couple of grenades, and then move to the side, and then dive down back in undercover, right? So there is some interesting mechanics there if you are using a grenade launcher to compensate for the fact that you don't have a grenade ability. But for the most part, in any other case, I would say the utility of being able to have something that can kill someone without LOS is critical, too critical to give up. So don't. So know when you're in tight quarters matches, and know when you need to use a sidearm and a sub as your primary, something that's aggressive, something that can chain kills, again, is important. You need to be able to 1v3, so keep that in mind. And then understand when you can get away with something that's a little bit more of a ranged game, where you can use a pulse or a hand cannon. Hand cannons can work in both ranges, but again, you're going to want to pair that with something that gives you some way to sort of check the apes a little bit. So you want a grenade, you want to pair the hand cannon with a grenade launcher or a fusion or something, or a shotgun. You want to pair it with something that can check the apes a little bit. You don't, if you're going to run a hand cannon. So that just to ensure that you're going to be able to get enough distance that you need to get those 3 taps off. You can definitely out duel a shotgun runner with a hand cannon. I've seen it. I've done it. It's easy enough in a lot of cases. But you're still in a tight quarters arena. You are going to be struggling. It's going to be harder unless you have some additional capabilities that'll help check the enemy player. So just be aware of that. Acknowledge that the map matters, and importantly, not just the map, but the game mode. Because if the game mode is amplifying certain areas of the map, then you have to be aware of that. So it can be the same map, but if the control points are drawing you out to areas that are wide out in the open, right, then you're going to want longer range utility, a longer range kit, because closing that gap on the other side of that, if you're in an open range area and you've got a submachine gun, closing that gap, good luck. Even if you are a charging Titan, right? If you are speed skating, you are still likely going to get taken out before you can close that gap. Even with the new high range sub meta, if you're in a really long, widely spaced out area, that's a lot of ground to cover without that sub. And if they have no reason to push close to you, then you're not going to be able to engage them in the setup that you want to engage them in. Being able to motivate players to move into an area that you want them to move into, because that matters a lot, right? Like, for example, if I've got a sniping lane in a map that I can watch, and you have no reason to move into that, then it doesn't matter. So like in Rumble, for example, everyone's just kind of running around the map looking for other players. So I can stand all day long in an area of the map where I've got wide angle views. I can see, clear to the horizon. And I can sit there all day and not get a single kill and lose the match. Like, maybe I won't get taken out until the super start rolling in, but I am not going to be able to get a kill because they can just not go there, and they've got plenty of other people to farm, and they can win the match, right? So if I don't have a way to motivate someone into that lane, then a sniper is probably not a good idea, right? So let's actually talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about snipers. This is the last chapter, I think, here for this particular episode. I think it's important to know when to snipe as much as how to snipe. You may be good at sniping, but I think it's important to realize that even the best snipers in the game are not going to be 100% accurate, especially when they're being flinched. So understanding when to snipe, and you can get aggressive with snipers. You can slide in to close quarters combat, throw out a body shot, and clean it up. It can work, but if you're no-scoping, there's so much spread on your bullet, it's very hard to do. You can get some help if you've got the the freehand grip, but it's kind of a bit of a gamble because you can't see your reticle. You really have to know what you're doing, but yeah, you can use it kind of the body shot cleanup, slide in body shot cleanup. But you need a sniper that's geared for that, first of all, and even then it feels like a little bit of a gamble. Like it's like, why wouldn't you just use a shotgun? You know what I mean? In that range. So I don't think that you want to snipe aggressively as a competitive play style. It's something that you can maybe do in 6v6, but I don't know that I would use it in trials. And it's so easy to get flinched. So with sniping, when to snipe? Well, ideally it would be when you've got a long view, right? You've got a long line of sight view down the range of where the player is going to be. But again, at that point, it comes down to motivation. You need to be able to motivate the enemy player to move down that lane. And if you can do that, if you have a situation where you've got a long lane and you've got a way to motivate the enemy player to move down that lane, then what you want is a sniper that is sticky as hell, and you want to hard scope that lane. And I'm saying, yes, you want to hard scope that lane. Now, not forever. It's not like you want to be hard scoped forever, but you want to be there at a time when you know the enemy is going to want to push that, right? And you want to hard scope it and pick them out, right? Now, I was watching videos from Awake, and he's talking a little bit about peeker's advantage. I think, to be honest, that is a myth if you're on a mouse and keyboard. As a controller, I think you've got enough sensitivity that you can slide out and get a pick faster than someone who's hard scoping the lane. But if you're on mouse and keyboard, you have to compensate for the fact that you have lower aim assist by dropping your sensitivity, your EDPI. And if you've dropped your sensitivity, you're going to be too slow to hard corner that and slide out and get a shot, I would expect. I don't think there's a large number of snipers out there that can honestly slide out with a sniper, ADS in, and get a shot off against an enemy sniper who's hard scoping that lane and win that engagement, who aren't on controller. And I want to talk about that a little bit for a moment as well. Controllers get a buff to aim assist, as I understand it, and that is not just a buff to aim assist, and I want to be very clear about that. A buff to aim assist is also a buff to speed, because if I have higher aim assist, I can be a little bit sloppier with my reticle placement. And because I can be a little bit sloppier with my reticle placement, I can boost my sensitivity. I can be a little bit more wobbly, right, with my placement of the reticle, which means I can move faster. I can tolerate more errors in my motion, so I can move faster. So that's something that I don't know that Bungie appreciates enough, is that the boost in aim assist for controllers is also allows them to snipe faster. And that's why I think you'll see a lot of high-end snipers that are on controller. And to be clear, I think it's known that they are on controller because they get the aim assist boost, but I think that the important part is there are play styles that they're engaging in that are maybe out of reach for most mouse and keyboard players. There's just things that you just cannot do because you have to compensate for the low aim assist with better accuracy and better consistency, and that usually means dropping your EDPI. By the way, I actually, initially when I started sniping, dropped my EDPI way down. I had 500, I think, on my sensitivity on my mouse, and then I had like 3 as my in-game sensitivity for mouse. And of course, no acceleration, no smoothing, make sure everything's linear. The brain doesn't understand acceleration. So that worked, and that I was able to be accurate, and I was able to get snipes. But what I noticed is that at higher levels of play, players would move very quickly. Even if they were off into the distance, the motion was so fast that I couldn't track players. So what I ended up doing is continuing to push up my sensitivity until I got to the maximum that I could possibly be accurate at. But still be fast. And right now I've got it at 12. So still 500 on my mouse. I've got 12 as my in-game sensitivity. And that seems to be a sweet spot. If I go any higher than that, I can't land headshots. And even after training with it for several hours, I can't land headshots consistently above that sensitivity level. I'm too wobbly, too imprecise in my motion. And that's my disadvantage. A controller player can push that even higher. Right. Obviously, it's a little bit different on a controller. The sensitivity values don't necessarily map 1-to-1, but they can have a higher effective turn rate per unit of time than I can. Right, because they have tolerance for more errors in their motion. So a lot of that aggressive sniping play is not something you can actually do on a mouse and keyboard. If you want to aggressive snipe, one way that you may be able to get away with it on mouse and keyboard is if you can ADS in quickly and your ADS has a low zoom so that you can be ADS ahead of time and still land headshots, right? Or if you got something that's really just got a really good hipfire grip on it and can be consistent in that way, and you can just body shot people and clean it up. So I would say there's some really good, really low zoom snipers out there. Grab something that has really low zoom on it. Put a hipfire grip on it, all the no scope mods you can, and just use it at point blank range, knowing that you're going to get a body shot and a cleanup. Or you can tight range, quick ADS in and get that shot, as long as it's got high flinch resistance. So it may be that with a low zoom sniper, put on tons of flinch resistance. You want stuff that activates instantly though, so no distraction is probably not great in that case. You want only things that activate instantly. You definitely want snapshot on that, or something that's going to get you ADS in as fast as possible. Super high handling is going to be more important than range. You're going to drop your range to basically 0 because you're engaging at 20 meters at that point or less, right? Like you've got slow, very, very close range. You might be able to get away with it on mouse and keyboard. So maybe this is a little bit reversing what I said earlier, but the thing is, you're going to have to write a completely different sniper loadout. It's not like you can do both, right? And even then, you're probably still going to lose to an aggressive controller sniper, right? Whereas lane control sniping, you can beat a controller sniper. I think aggressive sniping, you're going to lose to a controller sniper because they can just turn faster. They're just going to be faster. But I think it can still be done on mouse and keyboard. You just have to have a sniper that's completely geared differently than the sniper that you're going to be using for the other type of sniping, right? And the problem that I have with that is that it messes with your muscle memory. So if you're aggressive sniping on one map and then you're long range sniping on another map, the problem is that the sniper is going to feel different on the two maps. And so just the simple fact that you're used to the zoom on one map and then you switch to another map, you're not going to be as accurate because you have to get used to how the sniper moves with one zoom level versus how it moves with another zoom level. So I don't know that you're going to be able to switch back and forth. I could be wrong if, because when you're aggressive sniping, it's just a completely different type of play style. You don't care about the high range accuracy and aim assist. You are fine with body shots. Oh, and you want high rate of fire. So just plan on firing that sucker twice, right? Just double body everybody. You're double bodying everyone, picking up ammo, right? Or your body melee, body dodge melee, something like that. Could be an interesting play style. Might be something that I want to play around with a little bit. But yeah, there you have it. Again, if you want to snipe, know when to snipe. And the snipe is going to be something that you're going to want to do when the enemy has to push a lane, when they have to push a lane, or when they have to defend a lane, where they have to stand somewhere and hold a point. That's when you can use a sniper, right? Because then you're in control. Like they're at your mercy. They have to be in the open.